Evening, everyone. I'm Nick Bonner with treestuff.com, and tonight it is my distinct pleasure to welcome the big man right here, Mark Chisholm. Mark, how are you?
I'm doing great, man.
This is really exciting. This is our first AMA or Ask Me Anything. We've
Yeah.
not done one of these before. So, we're kicking it off with you, the legend. Thanks for coming and doing it.
Yeah, anytime, buddy. You know that. I'm all in on this stuff. I love getting to be a part of these types of things, especially with you and Kale and everybody. You guys have been great for a very long time. Good friends of mine. I appreciate it.
Yeah. We've got a whole list of questions. I'm going to be kind of selfish and just jump in front of the line. And then we're going to get some questions from the chat.
Okay.
But first, how's business?
Great. I mean, it's, I guess, 2023 was our best year ever, revenue wise and profit margin wise. And that's 47 years in business now.
47 years in business. You had your best year in 2023, and 2024 is shaping up, looking good.
Yeah, I mean, it started out the same. I would say the only thing I noticed that's a little bit on the soft side is phone calls coming in on the residential side. It's a little slower than normal. We're sitting kind of at a pretty good range right now of about 5-week backlog. But last year, this time of year, we were still coming off a very strong winter, and we were sitting at 15 to 12 weeks throughout the whole winter, which was a little too much, honestly. It's a little stressful for the team.
Huh. Well, I'm glad that business is good. I think we should jump into questions from customers and from the audience. People submitted these over the last couple of days, and I've got a list. And if you're in the chat and you're watching, you have a question for Mark, throw it in the chat, and we'll definitely be referencing some of those. Kale, it looks a little blurry to me. I don't know if that's something that you can address, but maybe. The first question that I want to do today, Mark, is from Trevor Jensen, and he says, what steps do you take or have you taken when you realize you've underbid a project and you're only partway through?
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess the first thing that comes to mind is I still stick to the plan. I don't really try to alter it. I find a lot of people will try to cut corners to save a job. And I used to do that when I was, obviously, I've been in it a long time. So I used to do that a lot as well, because it meant a lot to me to try to make sure I came in on time on every job. And I always tried to beat the numbers. It was like a competition thing for myself. My team liked it too, for the most part. But what I found out is over time, it really doesn't matter day to day what the jobs do. It's more about week to week, month to month, year over year. So long term is the way you really should think about it. It's okay to blow a job once a week. Just don't blow them if there's a trend, you got to fix it. But there are some things you can do. So I'll give you some things I would do that wouldn't alter the job too greatly. But maybe if it's you got 2 jobs on the day and the first one is starting to go under a bit, maybe at some point you can send a couple guys on the crew to go start the next job and limit how much man hours are on the end of that job to really nail it down. And then you can kind of trim it a little bit. Might not save the job, but again, worst thing you can do is probably get too wrapped up in it on a daily basis to where you try to cut corners, because then it could be a safety risk or you make a mistake and you damage something. I've been there too. So I've learned to curb that feeling.
I like that. I heard Mark say he doesn't do anything, and that essentially just goes back to not bidding jobs poorly.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it. Try not to bid the jobs poorly, that's for sure. But we've all been there. I mean, it's a tough business. I've been bidding jobs for a very long time, and I bid a lot of big projects, like year-long projects, multi-year projects. If you go under on that, you got to work through it over a course of a year or longer. That's a lot of stress. So yeah, spend your time trying to get the job where you need it to be in the bid process. And don't worry about getting every job. Obviously, you want to make sure the jobs you get are profitable. But hey, everybody makes a mistake. Let yourself off the hook.
Yeah, that's great. I see Zach Reardon in the chat from Kentucky. Hi, Zach. Zach asked a question that was also submitted by Pence01, whoever that is on the internet. Cool name. And that is, what advice would you give to a new climber?
Good question.
Market.
A couple of things, honestly, I always kind of draw back on. I try to think about what it was like growing up in where I was and what I did. But I think a few things that are very important. Number one is really look at who you're listening to and learning from when you're new to it, because everybody seems like an expert when you don't really know anything. But it really matters who you surround yourself with for two things. One, they're not going to put you in an unsafe place, especially when they know you're not really ready for that yet. They're going to keep you at bay even when you don't want to. They're going to hold you back, which is the right move. But number two, they're going to help you grow, and they're also going to help encourage you, which is where you want to be, because if you're with the right people, they're going to make you better. And that's always a good thing. If you're just doing tree work with people who are only punching a clock, it's pretty miserable. It's hard work, and you're not going to really enjoy every day. And we spend a lot of time at work. So analyze that. Number two, big thing for me is always be a student. Learn from everyone you can. Go to everything. If you didn't go, down to, to Arborfest, or, make sure you go to these things. They pay dividends, and they do a lot for your own morale as well. People ask me all the time, like, how do you still like doing tree work after you've been doing it since you're 12 years old? Like, why do you still like it? I was loving climbing trees today. Why? Because I always learn. I'm around the right people. It's fun to do the job where you see your goals in front of you. It's immediate gratification. At the end of the job, you see what you did. You can appreciate it. You can learn from it. And it's just, to me, it's one of the best things you could ever do with your time is do tree work, or specifically for me, be a tree climber.
Don't waste your time investing it with bad people. Find a good company, right? Company like Mark's, Aspen, or even some of the bigger companies, Davey, Bartlett, Save a Tree. These are great places with good organizations. And if you're looking to get your start, a lot of times those can be a better place, I think, personally, than, two guys in a truck or something like that. So yeah, definitely surround yourself with good people. Shift gears a little bit. Taz 36012. Best event to go to?
Wow, good question. I think it depends on what you're looking for, what your goals are.
No. You can't skirt this one. You got to nail this down to one event, Mark. And what is the best event? We'll say tree related event. We're not talking about the Taylor Swift concert, but
yeah, I wouldn't have picked that, to be honest with you.
Nothing wrong with that.
Cup. Yeah, now you're talking. No, I think it's just twofold. One would be trade show wise. I would go to TCI Expo because it has such a mix for so many different things: equipment, learning, networking, students. Like it's a big, great event. Otherwise, I would decide on if I could do the outdoor venue thing, because I really enjoy. If you're a West Coast, or even if you're not, I like Treetopia. If you're East Coast, go to Arborfest. They're my two favorite. I actually look forward to those every year. And Nick, I even kind of chaperone like brands I work with to try to get them on board, because I think it's really a great event. It's something to get behind, and I just enjoy every minute of it.
Well, we got Mark pinned down to 3 events, but I agree. I think TCIA is an incredible event run by great people, awesome team, and it's huge, right? It's definitely the biggest event in the U.S. And then Treetopia and Arborfest, which are both events that we're involved in, are both really awesome too. But I don't want to pass up your local comps, your state comp. Mm-hmm. You can't get to one of these national events. Get somewhere.
Oh yeah.
And you have a state event. You don't need any experience. I came in dead last the first time I competed, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. So definitely get out there. We'll keep moving.
Yeah.
Mark, I know the answer to this one, but what do you recommend for spiderlings for crane work in regards to size and different lengths? And maybe Cale can bring up what Mark's recommendation is going to be, because I happen to know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have 2 recommendations depending on what size things you're looking for right now. But honestly, the best I've worked with for a number of years are the ones that we created with Teufelberger. I don't even know, 20 years ago, a long time ago. And they're the crane slings. It's that Teufelberger sells. I know you guys have them. But the reason I like them so much, because there's a lot of choices out there, is because when we crafted them a couple different ways to start with, and I kind of weeded out what I really liked. What I like is lightweight, low stretch, grabs well, but unties easily. So we decided to go with a polyester covered Endurabraid, which is Dyneema. Dyneema is low stretch, lightweight, good with knots. And it works great as crane slings. But I found that if you use the hollow braid, they get fuzzy. They get caught on bark, rough bark. They get old looking quick. And then also they cinch down so tight that the guys on the ground and the girls on the ground are having a hard time, trying to untie them. Hey, look, we got a coupon.
Yeah, that's what I said. So these things, they don't have shackles on the end, right, Mark?
No, these don't have shackles on the end. And I would say that those are great for me, especially for awkward shape stuff. When I'm not dealing with awkward shape stuff, let's say we're dealing with a spruce tree, vertical, whatever, or just wood, then I would switch to something else. A lot of times I go with round slings with spring lock shackles on the bottom of them, and then you just kind of wrap them around, put them in the right direction, and then cinch them up and go. It's a lot quicker and easier. But I guess one of the things I've been working with for a long time too is the larger style of what you see on the screen there. So these are rated for 4,600 pounds choker, I think. The ones I've been using for big stuff are longer and stronger, which are rated for 9,800 pounds. Teufelberg is releasing them soon. They're working on the actual labels now, because there was some questions about the labels, so they got to get that right for OSHA. But yeah, we're working on that. I have sets.
We should have like a siren for when we have like a little product alert slip on stream. That doesn't usually happen. Those are awesome slings. We actually have them. We also have some cool videos where Mark works on our micro rigging lab and shows how like a really complex limb can be balanced on a single pick, and you can check those out in the Shop Talk site or just on our YouTube channel. A question from Melina 650. How do you get over pre-work jitters or self-doubt early in your career, and do you still go through it now?
Not so much self-doubt now, but early on, yes. So the first part of your question is, how do you get over it when you're newer to the industry? I think you have to work through it. Everyone always says, I can't believe you're not scared of heights. But to be honest with you, I'm not scared of heights when I'm in a tree tied into a rope or hanging off a building on a rope and harness. I'm not scared of heights and climbing redwood trees. What I am scared of heights is put me in the redwood tree with no rope and harness, and I feel weird. Standing on the edge of the building, I don't feel that comfortable. It doesn't mean you're scared really of heights, but you're not secured, and you know that because you get used to your gear. And the point is, when you start getting used to your gear and trusting your gear, you don't worry about that stuff anymore. What you worry about is making sure you're connected securely and properly, and the tree and your anchor point that you're choosing is strong enough for what you're doing. Those are the two things I think about. And to your point on part two is, does it still happen? Today, I changed my tying point in a tree because I'll put it up on Instagram tomorrow if you guys want to check it out, but it's not a big deal. But point is, it was an uprooted locust tree hung up in another tree. And I climbed up into the other tree above it. And there was so much pressure on this maple tree, I was worried that if it shifted, it's going to break the top out, because it wasn't that nice when I got up there. It wasn't in great shape, and the union was not great. So I decided that wasn't really where I wanted to be. So I temporarily lanyarded in, and I threw my rope in a neighboring tree to the side of where I was, which made me feel better because now I'm not anchored to the tree that's got pressure on it. So the point is that, you have to second doubt yourself or second guess yourself once in a while, but it's not a confidence thing. I think it's a instinctual thing you develop when you say, you know what, this is a better option. I'm just going to do it regardless if I need it. And I didn't need it. Why do I know that? Because the tree didn't break when we did it. So I could have stayed in it. Point is that don't take those chances. Just take 5 minutes, whatever it takes, 10 minutes, and adjust, and then you'll feel better.
You'd be a fool if you weren't scared. Couple questions from the chat. Our good friend Johnny Corthos, Johnny James, after a career as legendary as yours, and I second that.
Uh-oh, Johnny.
Literally
Johnny.
legendary. But before we do Johnny's question, I'm going to rapid fire. How many times have you won the New Jersey Tree Climbing Championship?
21.
North American Tree Climbing Championship?
Never.
Really?
Yeah, I only competed in 3. I took second twice.
International Tree Climbing Championship?
3 times. And I
How
don't
many
know
times have you met? How many times have you met Al Roker?
once. No,
Once.
twice. Sorry, twice. Yeah, we did 2 things, 2 different years.
There he is. Look at that.
On
Look
command.
at the level of preparation from Cale.
Yeah.
All right. Wow. All right. So yeah, truly a legend.
I don't know about all that, but
and we could
Johnny's got to ask that. Thanks, Johnny.
Johnny's question: after a career as legendary as yours, surely burnout has shown up at some stage. Has it ever for you? And if so, what's your advice for getting through it or preventing it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you get that question too, Johnny, when you were out there sharing your experience with everybody. And side note, Johnny just spent, he was at Arborfest, and then he flew up to New Jersey and spent 3 days with our team working in the field, and the guys raved about him. So if you guys don't know Johnny, check him out.
Oh, that's great. He was doing it as like a training service for you guys.
Yeah. People ask me, like, why don't you just train your own guys? I'm like, I do. We do. I mean, I'll do it on a daily at jobs. I do it. We do training days at the office. We bring them in and do full week training sometimes in the winter. But I think you got to be diversified. You got to bring in different perspectives, different voices. And the guys loved it. So I'm going to keep doing that. You know, we're going to keep bringing people in. But anyway, answering your question, Johnny. Yes. Yeah. So the question, do I get burned out and how do you get through it? Yeah, I think everybody in most industries at large will get burned out at some point. I find I get burned out periodically when I'm got a lot of other stuff going on in life in general, and you get there's so much pulling from you from different angles. But what gets me out of it is, one, participating in things like, say, Treetopia or whatever. These things really do pay a lot of dividends to me. I think you're making a mistake if you don't take the time to do it, because you go home and you feel great. But number 2 is I realize it's temporary, right? It's, to me, every time I've had a little bit of a lull where I feel a little burnt out, a little bit just kind of under the gun and just monotonous work day in and day out. Don't matter what you're doing. I don't care if you're doing crane work every day. If it gets monotonous, you got to mix things up. I put the blinders on and I just aggressively go at the work, and I just, kind of embrace the day-to-day of the work itself. And I also know that this is a time that's just going to pass. In a matter of days, a week, 2 weeks, whatever, I'll feel great again. And I won't be in the same position. So mentally, it's not a big struggle, I find, over time. The first couple of times you go through it, you question a lot of things. Am I in the wrong industry? Am I at the right company? Maybe I should change what I'm doing. I mean, it's hard because it is hard work and it can weigh on you. But yeah, if you like this job, I know Johnny loves this job. So for me, I think he probably would agree. When you feel it, just put the blinders on, dig into the work, and know it's going to pass.
All right. Great answer. Question from Barry McCockiner. Barry, people called me Boner my whole life, man. So I sympathize. Any advice for surviving as a small business when the market is saturated with tree companies in my area?
Yeah, it's a tough one. It definitely, I think if your goal is to stay a certain size, then you really have to market yourself well, especially in your area, and think about, like, what makes you unique. Like, do you have a niche, for example, or are you specific to something? What makes you different than everybody around you? And I wouldn't shine a light as saying we're better than this or look at them, they're bad. What I would say is, like, think about what are your strong suits as a company or as a team. Like, are you family owned? Some people love that. So family owned. Like, one thing we're really quick on marketing is that we're 3rd generation arborists, because it means something to people. It makes us a little different than everyone around us in that regard. Not everybody, but a lot. But we also market things like 47 years in business, because some people like the longevity aspect. But I think you got to get real creative with how you market yourself. And it doesn't take a lot of effort. I think you can reverse engineer it and think, okay, what should I say to make me not stand out? And then that'll teach you what you should do the opposite of to make sure you can stand out.
That's an interesting approach. Yeah, I agree with Mark. Definitely, I diversify. Drew McPheron, I just went from production to running the crews and sales. I've ran my own work for some time. What changes in mindset are needed? That's a good question. I think a lot of people struggle, even as business owners, when they try to transition from being the guy doing the work to being the person running the admin side. So that's probably applies to a lot of the audience.
Yeah, I think you have a very good background for doing that job. I mean, if you used to do production for any period of time, then you know what goes on in the field. It makes you better at sales. You also know what the crews are going to experience, so you can help them along the way. You can empathize when you know it's a tough job or it's going to be a difficult day. You know the weather, whatever it is. So that gives you credibility with your crews. I think that's a great thing. But mindset wise, I think you have to probably learn a little different discipline. I mean, for me, going from just being a climber to a crew leader and then doing some sales and then getting into big contracts and then helping to run things and be like operations on some levels, I had to learn new skill sets, and that's the point about being a student. And, just like you learn how to run a chainsaw safely or learn how to climb a tree safely, you have to learn how to do sales properly. It's not as easy just being good at tree work to walk up and say, yeah, this is what you need, this is the price, and that's that. You have to get good at the aspect of what you're trying to achieve. And, so we take a lot of classes on leadership now and managing. I read books on the stuff. Why? Because I never was in a position where it was something that came natural to me, and I want to make sure I do the best job I can for my team. So I invest in myself on every level I can.
That's incredible. A couple rapid fire questions. How many employees do you have at Aspen?
Total with the tree and turf PHC division, probably about 70.
What's your average pay rate for field production people, or what's the scale that they're in?
Average. Well, new hires, no experience, are starting about $25 an hour, and obviously it goes up from there. We have people making six figures doing tree work, no problem. It's really varies because we have a lot of people that stay on board for a very long time. We just had our first retired person come out of Aspen this year. He was working for us for 37 years. And he just retired. And we have people that have been here 30 years and 25 and 20 and you name it. So, I think that's kind of a fun aspect of it too, seeing the longevity of that people stick around. I think that tells you what you're doing right and wrong too, as a company, I think.
How do you track and manage accidents, worksite incidents? Things must go wrong, right? People stub their toes or drop tools on their
Well, there's protocols based on what we're doing. So on our residential side, we would have to do an incident report. We would do a safety stand down if needed, if it's a safety issue. Obviously, if it's like a lost work incident, then there's processes there that has to be done in the office to comply with workers' comp or whatever you're dealing with. On the contract side of things, when there's an incident on, say, utility under my end, it turns into many levels of actions and protocols. So we do a safety stand down, we do an incident, we do a snapshot immediately, like within 24 hours. We do an incident report. We do something online for the utilities, this Intellect report, submitting pictures, documents, looking at root cause, this, that, and that. Then we do an online conference about it with a lot of safety individuals within the utility company, and we try to work through what went on. Is it an issue? Do we have to change things? How are we going to not have it happen again? Doesn't matter what it is. A handsaw cut to the arm is the same process. Honestly, we just did one last year, but we take it very seriously because these things can be a problem. I mean, our biggest fear, I think, my family, meaning our biggest fear, and I guess everybody at Aspen really, is God forbid somebody gets hurt really badly. That's something we wouldn't feel very good about. One thing that I love like going to say TCI Expo and working with the students is that we can talk to them and feel good about recommending working as an arborist. Because why? It's a great business to be a part of. There's so many avenues. There's so much you can do. Why else can we do it? Because I don't feel it's as dangerous as the stats show. A lot of the things that we look at accident-wise are lack of training, lack of following protocols, bad mistakes, or from like multiple bad decisions lead to the problem. It's not like a freak accident most of the time. I think that's important.
Yeah, the work is hazardous, not necessarily dangerous.
Right.
Question from Keith Blake. So Keith's a good friend of ours and actually runs the JATC program, which is a lineman, like a journeyman lineman through the IBEW. They also do vegetation management and stuff. Really great jobs available through JATC in the Pacific Northwest. We actually have a page on it on our site. But Keith is a friend. Keith asks, would you or do you offer multi-day courses? And I'll distill the question down, but do you offer outside of what you do at events any type of training that people can sign up for or come to?
Yeah, I mean, I have done many like company trainings, like for the companies that request them. Like I did one in Minnesota not too long ago. A group wanted to have me come out for their annual week-long retreat and did 2 days of work with Dr. John Ball and myself. We partnered up and did some work, a lot of different topics over the course of a couple of days, and worked with their management team at night on roundtables for the managing side and, business aspects. But yeah, I do that. I don't do it a lot because, I got to keep it at bay and make sure I don't do a ton, but I don't schedule it a whole lot. I just wait till somebody, says, "Hey, would you come do this?" If I can make it happen.
See, I've got an idea for you, Mark. Here's a new program that we're going to launch for just $500 a week. You can go to New Jersey and receive on-the-job training, production training through Mark, right? And you can work for him for an entire week for just $500. I'll bet you people would line up to pay to come work for you, Mark.
It's an interesting thought, Nick. You always have some creative ideas coming out of you.
Magnuson 3 sent a question. At your presentation at Arbor Expo, you talked about an interesting technique where if you want to fell a tree in an area with obstructions, you can do a notch higher up on the tree and essentially catch the butt of the tree to prevent the obstacle.
Yeah. He's not wrong. I did speak about that. It's a technique.
Can you discuss that technique a little bit? That's kind of what he was looking for.
Yeah. It's pretty easy to explain, honestly, because I'll tell you where it came from. But I coined it. I didn't know what to name it. I call it the hang and bang. So the short version of it is this. Where it was birthed in my career was I was doing a pine tree that had back lean over a shed and over a permanent clothesline to the side. So anywhere I roped, it would be right over the shed, right over the clothesline. And there wasn't enough space to drop the whole tree because there was a fence on the far side. So it was too tall to drop in the backyard. It would have hit the fence. I looked at it and said, this is going to be a lot of branches because it's a pine tree. They're going to have to keep pulling them off the shed with a pole saw or something, unless I could figure out a way to hook a speed line somewhere and not hit the fence. And then it dawned on me, I got all this lawn space. It's just too tall of a tree. So I could try to pop the top out, but with back lean, and it's a pitch pine, so it can hang up. It's very fibrous. So if I try to pop it out, we probably could get it over, no problem, but maybe the butt's too close to, the structure. So I thought, why not take a rope up in the tree? The tree was solid enough. That's part one. I looked at it from the ground and said, I just got to shorten it by about 15 feet or so, right? So I just went up there. I tied a cow hitch with the rope with a long tail leaving it. I made a notch backwards over top of the shed, and I did another cow hitch tight to the tree top. I then made a back cut. I folded the top down into the tree. It's hanging over the shed, but it's hung up and it's not being lowered because I got a cow hitch there. Then we used the same rope. I came out of the tree and I made a felling cut and we pulled the whole thing into the lawn space because now the top is on top of the log. It's all in the grass. You can grab it with like in and out and you're done in a heartbeat. So that's in essence what it is. And I've altered it through the years for different purposes, but that's the simplest way.
please use a very big rope if you're going to catch and hang a top,
Yeah,
because there's a very limited fall factor and a very small amount of rope there.
you're much.
Yeah,
And
use
you gotta make sure the
big
tree's
rope.
right, because you're gonna have a shock load because you're not lowering it. Yes, you could lower it a little bit and then hold it up and then drop it if you're doing a tall tree, but there's a lot of options out there.
Sure.
It doesn't suit every job, but when you're hanging in a bucket truck and you don't care about a little bit of rock and roll, why not? It's easy. In this situation, it wasn't a big top. It was a very easy one to do, and it just jumped into other limbs. So there's limbs that cushion the fall too, that are pretty stiff on a pitch pine. So it made good sense, and it really worked well. And I've used it a bunch of times since that point. I mean, that happened before, I don't even know, 2000. It was a long time ago.
People browsing social media right now, maybe Reddit, might just randomly see you and Caitlin like talking about saws, and I know I did. I was just like scrolling through. I was like, "Oh, look, that's working." I was like, "Oh, wow, that's like an ad from Steel or
Yeah.
something." Can you tell us about that? What was that?
Yeah. So Caitlin Johnson is new to the Steel team. You guys probably know her as maybe as a tree climber, originally from Ohio, but now Tree Being on Instagram. Yes. She's got TikTok too, I'm sure, but now she lives out in California, working with her fiance, Matt Meckley, and they do a lot of large tree felling and timber projects, fire burn, you name it. So she's gotten very good at the falling aspect and very technical. So that's obviously a nice skill to actually share with people. So she started working with Steel, and they partnered us up to do some different like educational things for homeowners and other people. And then part of it is what you saw was an in-tree interview at this really beautiful beech tree, by the way. It's a tree we've cared for a long time. One of our clients, a lot of people, if you're into social media, you'll know whose house it is. There's a daughter, her name is Alex Earl. She has some like huge following on social media. Like I don't even know, like 5 million here, 4 million there. She's very, very well known. But her parents own this house. His name is TJ Earl. Anyway, great guy. Let us use his property for whatever we need to do anytime we want. Shout out to the Earl family for that. But yeah, it was fun. We got up in a tree and we just started doing what we're doing now. And honestly, it wasn't scripted. We just started running through stuff, and I was just genuinely throwing questions at her that I thought were interesting based on what we were talking about. And it was a lot of fun. So yeah, check it out. I know it's on Steel's social channels too, I think on YouTube now and everything, but I'll try to point a link to it on Instagram in the next few days too, if anybody wants to check it out.
Awesome. Well, Meckley and Tree Being are like the type of, they're like cut trees down while they're burning on fire, like the kind of people they should only be allowed to take black and white photos of or something. They're that cool. Zach Eckberg said, "Hi Nick." Hi Zach. And he wants to know how you stay so strong and handsome. Any tips for strength training or injury prevention? That's a great question. Injury prevention is a huge concern, I think.
Zach, my man, it's good to hear from you, buddy. Yeah, I don't know about the whole, he's obviously, kind of shooting a little high there, but staying in shape's important. I learned that through the competition aspect too. My father got me started in physical fitness when I was at the same time I started doing tree climbing, because he knew it was great for him. He was big into weightlifting, liked bodybuilding too, but did everything. He's a military guy, did all that going through the military, and then got into weightlifting and shared it with me and my brother and other people, my friends, tree climbers. But so I've always been with it. I like, for example, today I worked today climbing, came home, knew I had this to do. So I jumped in the gym, did a workout. When we're done with this, I'm going to walk my dogs, and then I got hockey tonight at 8:00. So that's kind of the gist, is I just stay active. And I think you're right on the money about the injury prevention stuff. I don't get a lot of injuries from tree work, honestly. I get a little bit of soreness from different movements I'm not doing all the time. Like if I'm using a hedge trimmer, which is rare, I did on Saturday, I was doing a lot of head trimming and my shoulder was bothering me that night, but it went away then, in no time, but it ached. So you will have that, but you got to avoid those big injuries. And how you avoid those is following great protocols, right? For example, tying in the right way, climbing ergonomically as possible, using two hands on the chainsaw. I know a lot of people hate that, but when you can, it's two arms, so think about that. Holding the same weight, keep it closer to your body so you're not doing this a lot, because that's a lot of pain like that. And don't be stubborn with your climbing. If your shoulder's hurting, like, don't do SRS down a long limb with no mechanical advantage. Take a second, put a mechanical in, go out and do your thing. It doesn't take a lot of effort, and then you won't have to have that struggle where you're really putting a lot of strain on your joints. Shoulders are big, backs are big problems, knees are big problems for tree climbers. So the biggest thing you can do is make sure you're exercising and staying active, because that keeps everything working properly. The small muscles, the tendons, ligaments, all that, you got to strain them mechanically to make them stay strong. But also I think you need to do good for yourself for nutrition. I'm not going to tell you what diet to follow, but think about what you're putting in your body, because it matters. I live, my whole lifestyle is more about moderation. I don't do anything all the time. I do moderation, so, but I also think you got to learn from what your body's telling you, listen to it. So, I worked out on Sunday. I started feeling like I was getting a cold. You might hear it. I didn't work out yesterday. I rested more. I did a little bit more, mindful about what I'm doing. So, rest is important to stay healthy for sure. So, it's holistic. It's a lifestyle. It's not a fad. For me, I think that's where you do it. That's why when people say, well, which workout should I do? Or what should I do this? I'll tell you what I do that works for me. But I think what you need to do that works for you is do something that you like enough that you can do it consistently for the long haul. It's not like I'm going to get in shape for summer. It's like I'm going to get in shape and stay in shape as best as I can, and hope you avoid those injuries.
I also did a workout in between my work day and starting this, just in case anybody wondered. It was high intensity.
I see you sweating when you got on.
I had just finished really, really pumping the iron.
I don't know if you heard me. I just did 1,000 reps. It's guns day.
Alec Bax, we're just going to do a couple more questions and we're going to wrap. I really appreciate your time. But Alec Bax says, feels like I can teach well or be productive, but I rarely manage to do both simultaneously. Any advice for balancing staff development with productivity?
That's the struggle, right? I mean, I hear it from a lot of our teams too. Like, I don't have time to teach these guys because I got to get this job done, or you got to focus on what's right for you for productivity wise. But what I found, what worked for me through the years and still to this point, is you can't teach all the time on every job. Sometimes you got to think about what you need to do for you to stay strong and stay focused. But what I found works well is when I had a light day or even a light part of a day, that's when the teaching came in. And I also let other people teach along the way too, right? So if I'm climbing, my best ground guy can teach somebody about saw sharpening or why we're putting ropes in or what Mark's doing and help that. But what I learned is, let's say I got 3 jobs on the day. The big one is the first one of the day typically. When I look at the time of what we got done, well, now it's time to say, all right, we're in good shape. Now let me put you in the tree with me, or let you do the tree yourself and I'll coach you from the ground, or let's show you how to do something. So I think you just got to use your time wisely, but you can't put that pressure on the people in the field daily to do that on every job. It's just not. That's why we bring people in from out of the country. Like Johnny came in this week, like I mentioned, and he worked with our teams for 3 days. It wasn't about money. It's about getting training in the right atmosphere in a way that really does stick to people, So I think it has to be multi-pronged, if you will. In the field, do it. Take a day off, whatever. Send somebody to Arborfest. Send some people to Treetopia. All this stuff matters. We sent 15 or 18 people to Arbor Expo because they wanted to go. It's not. You can't worry about it for money wise. You got to do it for the reasons you're doing it, and that's what really works the best for us.
Great answer. Dustin Counts asks, as the industry develops and changes, What do you think production arborists will need to be doing differently 5 or 10 years from now? This is a great question. We're seeing a ton of mechanization happening,
Mm-hmm.
right? And a lot of that. Well, how do you think that that and other factors are going to influence it more?
Yeah, so a lot of people will ask, like, say these things. I've heard it through the years, like, bucket trucks are gonna keep us from having a lot of work, or grapple saws are gonna take all our work, or Centoboggans, or whatever. I think they all help you if you use them the right way, but nothing's gonna take the place of what we do until they can make something that can do what we do, and there's nothing that does it on its own. So I think, you know, as the industry changes, you got to change with it. Keep utilizing equipment. Why? Because the equipment will help you spend time doing other things that the equipment can't do, which also keeps you from getting, bogged down or feeling, like you're kind of like getting in that mundane frame of mind where it's like work, 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 work. So you use these machines like minis, right? Who didn't want a mini as soon as they saw it, because it can do the job of many people. It's one of the best machines ever. When Dave Norgard got me to buy the first one we did with his branch manager attachments, I'm like, this thing is the best purchase of the year, and I've bought a lot of stuff, and it's not a very expensive investment. So I'm all about the machinery. I don't buy it for just to have it. We do a lot of time and thought into purchasing to make sure we're doing the right thing and buying the right things at the right time. But I think, staying with where the trends are is what you do. You don't try to fight them, So if I can use these machines, I definitely would jump right in.
Yeah.
So,
There's also going to be a lot of digitization, I think, Dustin, and also we're going to see more elements of like fleet management and
yeah.
more uh, more finite time management. I think is what we're going to start to see as the economy tightens and things like that.
I think also, Nick, the networking aspect of the industry, like dig into that, because to your point, you don't know what you don't know until someone else shares something with you. So, I love when people share knowledge with me, right? Like, I'm sharing things that I see work for us with other companies. My friends are like, "Hey, what kind of software are you using?" Well, my people like, single ops. I don't use it myself because I'm in the field, but they say they like this, they like that about it. Fleet management. We do have fleet management software now we're using. We also have, GPSs in all the equipment. Why? Because all these different things people found worked for them. We said that makes sense, and we try it, and sure, it actually works great. So yeah, you got to be keeping your ears open for that stuff.
Mark, we're just rolling up on 45 minutes. I
Yep.
think that this has been a great show so far. We may have to have you come back because I feel like we've really just scratched the surface, but we're going to be looking to line more people up to do these and do these more frequently. So that should be really exciting. We've got a little list started already. And Mark will be at Treetopia this year, August 16th and 17th in Vallejo, California, or as my man Robert Albritton says, Valley Joe, California. And Mark will be teaching there and also just be around to chat and hang out if you want to come and meet him. And I'll be there and Kale will be there. It'll be a great time. But Mark, thanks for doing this with us. You got changed really quickly and you were awesome.
Oh, I appreciate it, Nick. Honestly, it's an honor. And one thing I've loved about being in this industry is anytime you can add any value to someone's work life, to me, it just is such a great honor. So if I can help anybody, by all means, reach out to me. Even when we're not doing this, just message me. If I can help, I'm all there.
Can we do a fist bump? It's the opposite way.
How about if I put my arm around you?
No.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Get out of here with that noise. Come on.
All right.
Just
all
a
right.
fist bump. Just a good fist bump right across.
It's kind of hard though, because it's like the camera's not. It's delayed too, right? It's like
it's opposite. It's opposite.
How's that? I'll go across the left.
There we go. Boom. Mark, thank you so much. Thanks to the audience, for everybody for submitting questions before and after. And watch your email to find out when the next one of these is. Kale, great job putting it together. Little blurry. We'll have to talk about our internet connection or something. I guess that's probably something that's unavoidable. But thank you so much for doing this, and thanks to everybody. Have a great night.
Appreciate it, guys. Sorry I ignored everyone on Instagram. I couldn't look at while we're doing this, but I'll answer you guys later. Thanks for being here.